What is going on, everybody? I'm Rob Westerman of GBP Daily. Joining me this week and every week on Pack Casual is the one and only my guy, Johnathan Beckman. John, we're 4-1. It's Bears week. How we feeling?
Feeling good after that win.
Yeah.
I mean, not really feeling good because it was the way that it turned out. But at the end of the day, it was one of those get in, get out, right?
Get in, get out. I mean, they were a good opponent. Their defense is good. Obviously, Jamar Chase on the other side, Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon wasn't fully healthy, but he played pretty good.
Yeah.
They're leading in their division. It's at their place. We don't play very often.
Right.
So I'll take it. A win's a win. Were you surprised how close it was, or what were your thoughts there?
I guess I wasn't terribly surprised how close it was. I mean, I predicted a 7-point win. Obviously, we only won by 3, but yep. I mean, really, it was just like one of those ridiculous things that it just didn't seem like they were executing at specific times. That I mean, obviously, the Bengals are going to sit there and say that they found ways to lose the game time and time again, but really, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Green Bay is probably the better team.
Yep.
Just needed to come out on top and take a win that wasn't the most important win, but as we've talked about at the start of the year and up to now, these wins are important because we have a tough stretch coming up.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Let's just dive right in, huh? A few tidbits here. Packers signed Quinton Dunbar. He's a cornerback. Obviously, he used to be a wide receiver during his time with the Washington football team, but now he's on our practice squad with the obvious injuries to our corner group. Speaking of the corner group, Kevin King is not practicing today, or he did not practice today. He had the shoulder injury that he got on Sunday's game. You saw that tackle where he kind of just threw his head or threw his body.
What was that?
It kind of makes sense now. Obviously, he was injured. So, yeah, Kevin King not practicing. EQ today was brought up from the practice squad of the active roster. And I'm sure like you – I'm hoping this week he can lay down some solid blocks to make up for last week's whiff we saw on the screen to Alan Lazard there. Some good news here. Elton Jenkins, Josh Myers both practiced today. And also Dominique Daphne practiced after being on IR. So Bears D-line, serious group to wreck with, obviously. So if we could get those two guys back, it would be massive. Yeah. So as pumped as I am to get in some Bears stuff, because I don't like the Bears. No, nobody does. They suck. That's just the way it is.
Was your preseason you hate the Vikings or Bears more?
It was the Bears in a close call. I dislike the Vikings, but my hate, I wouldn't call it hate, but because I respect the Packers-Bears rivalry, but the Vikings is kind of like, if they were successful, then maybe that would, bring a little more heat to the rivalry, but they're just not. I know they've been
like flies on the wall.
Yeah. So it's that bzzz, that buzzing noise that you hear, and it's just like, dude, you've done nothing, and I don't want to give much attention to it. Whereas the Bears, obviously, they haven't been successful the last 40 years or whatnot, but there's the history there. There's that respect. So they seem to be pretty chirpy on Twitter too. Their fan base seems to be more active and bigger, at least on Twitter, compared to Vikings fans, I guess, depending on the year. But anyways, let's round off this past weekend's, overtime thriller, if you want to call it, of a game, obviously, with the Bengals. So the story of the day from Sunday is Mason Crosby. He hit the game winner, but before that goes 3 for 6 on field goals, 1 for 2 on extra points. For me, I'm not worried one bit about Mason moving forward. I think, we saw this a few years ago with the Lions game, and then he bounced back the last 2 years and just wrecked. So with that, are you worried whatsoever about Mason moving forward and his confidence, or what are you thinking?
I mean, I'm sure the confidence-wise, it hurt him. I mean, for me personally, I don't know about you. On the 4th and inches, I was hoping that we would go for it. I really was. Because I kept saying, I mean, I felt like his brain was just mush at that time. I mean, I compare it a little bit to golfers where it just seemed like he was just having a bad day. So, you know what? It's not that he's a bad player or that everything's ruined. He was having a bad day, and I mean, I trust Mason going forward. I mean, we saw what happened. Gosh, what year was it that he had a horrible year, and then he missed 4 field goals?
Maybe.
He missed 4 or 5 against the Lions, and then ever since then, he made, I think it was at about 93, 94%. So at the end of the day, the guy's been as clutch as they come. He's shown that when he struggled before, he can bounce back and really make something happen. I'm not worried about it because at the end of the day, every time he was out there, I felt like he was going to make it.
Yeah, I was the same way.
But it was just like, oh my God, what the, like, this is not him.
It wasn't like, yeah, I was just utterly shocked. Really,
yeah.
I was just like,
yeah. I mean, it was just honestly when we got down there, and even the players alluded to it, the deja vu of Green Bay against the 49ers a few weeks back. Like literally, I was like, wow, we really just did the same thing. Devontae over the middle, 50-yard field goal, win. I guess chalk it up every time.
Right. But, and that was the crazy thing. Like it was so the same thing. Like we hit Devontae, get in field goal position, and then Rodgers does the same type of fist pump like he did against the Niners.
You know what's interesting? Before the drive, Johnathan Vilma kept saying, guard the sidelines, guard the sidelines. And I'm like sitting there and going, that's what the 49ers did. And that's the logical thing to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you watched the Vikings at the end too. Both of Thielen's big catches were over the middle on that final drive. Right. It's like, if you're going to guard the sideline, that's fine. We're going to take 20 yards and we're going to go spike the ball.
Right.
I mean,
I agree. I was, like I said, just shocked that he just kept on missing. And that extra point at the beginning of the game, I'm like, that just sucks. And
it was so far off.
It was bad. I was like, and after seeing stuff on Twitter and social media and whatnot, I had seen screenshots of the protection on the field goal unit, like the whole line, just caving in on one side.
On the right.
Maybe that, like you said, maybe that has something to do with him missing left, but it was not like he was the only kicker missing field goals. I mean, obviously the Bengals kicker.
I was wondering that too, if he's starting to get a little nervous about that right side, and so he's pulling it left to try to avoid,
right.
But whatever. It was one game in a guy's career that's been outstanding.
Yep. And that's why I'm not worried. We're both not worried. People who usually are worried say they're not worried, but since I brought up the question, that doesn't apply here. So, anyways, we can't talk about the win without talking about how big of an impact Devondre Campbell has had since joining the team. Eli Berkovitz tweeted some stats about him the other day. So, for him this season, through 5 games, he's got 48 tackles, 2 picks, 3 pass breakups, 1 tackle for loss, and a fumble recovery. And like I talked about the other day, he's done those picks, the fumble recovery, all in fourth quarter or overtime, really. So my question to you is kind of a vague question. How important has he been so far for this defense? Obviously, Chris Barnes was out a couple of weeks with injury. Z's out. Like, I feel like he stepped up in just massive way.
When you asked this question 3 weeks ago, I deflected and said, I was like, I don't know. He didn't seem very good in the first quarters. He struggled. But ever since that, first quarter, 3 or 4 weeks ago, he's been, incredible. The dude is, he can move, which is a difference in Green Bay. We don't see our linebacker be able to move. But he's always glued. He's always glued onto his guys.
Yeah.
He's been, like you say, it's 48 tackles, which I think is 5th in the league. I think is what I saw when I was on ESPN on Monday or Tuesday. It's a huge change of pace for you and me to see a middle linebacker like that. What Rodgers in his presser or whatever he said, it's just ridiculous that a guy like that was on the street.
Right. Healthy. I think he's 27. His injury history is basically nothing. He's played all the games for the most part. Like you just said with Rodgers, how the hell is that guy on the street when a position like the linebacker spot really, a couple years ago, it was Luke Kuechly and, everybody else really.
Wagner.
Right. So, and, KJ Wright obviously still doing his thing.
It's a somewhat undervalued position these days, to be honest.
Especially, with the safety coming down.
On the defense, everybody only cares about the edge rushers and the corners these days.
Yeah, no, I get it, and that's kind of a product of that. So, no, I agree. Obviously, been massive. And like I just said, Chris Barnes was missing time, and if we didn't have Campbell and Chris Barnes was missing time, and Ty Summers or a guy like Christian Kirksey last year, filling in and taking over. Christian Kirksey didn't do anything. I mean,
Oren Burks and whatnot.
Yeah, Oren Burks. Like without him,
well, it should be interesting now with Jalen Smith. If what he's going to play the role, is he going to play like passing downs? Is he going to rush? What type of player? I think so. That's something that we're going to have to sit back and watch.
Right. So another note with Devondre Campbell, they gave him a 1 year, $2 million contract and an additional $500,000 in playtime incentives, which I fully expect him to earn those. Obviously, deservedly so. So, all right, let's close out week 5. Talk a little Devontae, huh? I'll let you take over here.
Man, I doubted I didn't necessarily doubt, but for a while I was like, is he really the best receiver?
What?
But
Are you serious?
No. Because you sit there and you think about all the guys in the past, the Calvin Johnsons, the Julios, the AJ Greens, although I know he's not, Odell 5 years ago, all that. But it's like when you look at this guy's stats, and then back to this last weekend, 11 catches, 206 yards, touchdown. And we're targeting the hell out of him.
Yeah.
He's got 61 targets.
Yep.
The question has come up is, are we targeting him too much? Now, if you ask Aaron Rodgers in all his pressers last year or when we've lost in the past, that he keeps saying, I'm not giving him the ball enough. At the end of the day, and then you had a pretty funny retweet. Was it last night or day of our very own practice squad quarterback talking about how
Baker, yes sir, yesterday.
Yeah, talking about how doesn't matter what the coverage is, doesn't matter what it is.
You can't stop him.
Throw him the ball. I mean,
he's the best in the league. He's getting thrown the ball from the best quarterback in the league. Yes, that helps.
He's on pace for 2,000 yards, about 2,000 yards. I mean, that's on pace. You know how that goes. That doesn't mean shit. But when you look at his past 20 games, past 25, 30 games, his stats are literally so far above anybody else at the receiver position.
And he's missed time.
He's missed time. But then
he missed 2 games last year. I
mean, at the end of the day, target the hell out of him. Because if the guy's coming, I mean, give him the ball.
Whether he's triple,
give
double.
him the ball. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know if you think, one thing I was reading, it's fine. Guys like Cobb and Alan Lazard and MVS, they can still make an impact getting 2 or 3 targets.
Oh yeah.
They don't have to get 5, 6 targets.
No.
And I know our argument has always been we need another second, third receiver. And I still stand by
targets from the best.
I still stand by the fact that I think that if we would have had, say, a Justin Jefferson or something, it would have been like, holy crap. At the end of the day,
unstoppable.
At the end of the day, Devontae is, that dude's elite.
No, I agree. I see, like you just said, I see zero issue with feeding the ball. Obviously, if we were 2-3 or if we were 2-3, I don't ever foresee us being 1-4 with Rodgers, no matter who's out there. Let's just say we lost the Niners in a game we very well could have lost, and just say we lost to the Bengals, a game we very well could have lost. If we were 2-3 and he had a ton of targets and the offense wasn't clicking or wasn't going as smoothly, it still isn't going as smoothly as it should be, but we're winning. But if we were 2-3, then I'd be thinking twice about his share of the offense. But like we were just talking about, let's be real. The dude can't be stopped. Like we know, at the end of the half, in regulation on Sunday, everybody knew that Devontae was getting the ball. Aaron Rodgers said as much so, after the Niner game, what were you thinking when you're coming out there with 37 seconds left? And he said, get Tay the ball? coaches, players, they're all watching that stuff.
No, it's no mystery, but you can't triple cut. In the NFL, you just can't. Everybody's too good. You can't put 3 or 4 guys on one dude. So it's like, try with 2, but
yeah. And if you don't succeed, like most people don't against Devontae, then it is what it is. But yeah, everybody knew that he was getting the ball. Yet, here he is coming across the middle, one play, boom, we're in field goal range to win the game. And obviously, we didn't make the field goal, and it led to go into overtime.
Right.
But it was just nuts. Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. So, last touch on Packers Bengals here before we move on. Obviously, tough game. We came out on top. That's all that matters. And in a month or two, we won't be harping on it as much. We'll just look back on it as a win against a quality opponent, obviously in the AFC side. So, we're 4-1, first place in the North, heading into Bears week. Johnny, it is time. It is time to talk some Packers Bears. It is, in my opinion, and many others, the best rivalry in all of sports. A couple things I had noted down here. Sunday is the 203rd meeting between the two teams, and currently Green Bay holds a slight edge in the overall series, which is 101 Packer wins to the Bears' 95 wins. During those 202 games, there were 6 ties. I'm hoping we don't see a tie ever again. I hate ties. My question to you, John. Outside of Green Bay, Chicago, what is the best rivalry to you across all of sports?
Oh,
it's a toughie. I knew my answer pretty quickly.
I mean, I don't know if I can. There's so many good rivalries, so I have to go based off of probably what I enjoy watching the most, right?
I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, whoever has the most meetings or the most crazy matchups in clutch in playoff time, or
when I look at different things, I mean, being from Iowa, the Iowa State thing's fine and all, but it just doesn't get me riled up like
usually Iowa State's not very good. They're two completely different programs.
I've always liked watching Ohio State, Michigan.
Yep.
One of the best college football games I ever watched. Our best moments was Auburn, Alabama, when Chris Davis returned that ball, like 108 yards for a touchdown.
That field goal return.
I mean, that was just like one of those moments you just wish you were at.
Yeah, just nuts.
I mean, you always kind of anytime Duke and North Carolina are playing each other, I always click on it, see who wins.
Yep.
I mean, I have a fascination for the glitz and the glam of the big programs going at it. Which is why it's so unique with Green Bay, Chicago, because in some ways there's glitz and glam, but in some ways they're both kind of hard nosed blue collar football teams. So they're not. I know Chicago's big, but I mean it's not the big.
They're a blue collar city.
It's small. It's small city. They were able to take small with a bigger team and make it huge. I mean, so outside of it, I'm just gonna go with the big college football games I mentioned. I mean, like I said, college basketball. I like turning on Duke, North Carolina. Even though I'm not even a big, basketball guy, but in general, there's nothing like the Bears Packers to me. Packers Vikings doesn't do it as much, and who gives a hell about Vikings, Bears, and the Lions? So I mean, these are big games. I sent one of my good friends this morning a text of Randall Cobb's touchdown to beat them when it was 27-28. Julius Peppers got barely clipped by John Kuhn. Rodgers rolls out.
He's got Cobb. Touchdown. Let's go. I get chills.
I know Chris Conte missing that. I know Bears fans hate.
Thank you, Chris Conte.
But I mean it's hard to pinpoint one directly, but I'm invested.
You did a good job of rounding up the in the NFL, you can, you talk about the Ravens, Steelers, maybe.
Yeah, that's who I would say.
That's really, I honestly can't think of.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC East, those teams all kind of beat up each other. The NFC South is no one really. Those aren't big. And
the NFC East is filled with 4 teams that are so old.
Yeah,
they all have good rivalries against each other, and maybe that's kind of taken away from one singular.
I don't think there's a big one in the NFC West, one versus another. But I personally, myself, I feel like the NFC West is the most competitive division. So I always pay attention to who's winning those games.
Yep.
Because any of those 4 teams right now can beat any of the other ones. So
no, I agree.
No,
you did a good job of kind of rounding it up. My pick, I knew it right away. It was in college basketball. Obviously, UNC Duke. Those teams. I mean, they're always good. Both of them at the same time. Besides this last year, I don't think either of them were ranked in the 25 for a while. They're always good. They're always meeting in the tourney, March Madness, crazy games. Whether Christian Laettner back in the day, just doing just crazy shit. That's me, and obviously they're close in proximity, so that kind of just makes it that much better. Kind of like Green Bay, Chicago, they're not very far from each other, so that's just kind of how it works. So, moving on to some Packers Bears factoids, John, I'll let you take it away here. Go for
it. So I was getting a little distracted by one of our viewers.
Yeah, Wreck-It Ralph. He's talking some shit, huh?
No, check it out. Watching on his big screen at home.
Love it. Hey, I love it.
Gotta send that to you.
Please do. Wreck-It Ralph. You're the man.
I got you, though. All right, so here's some facts. 50th meeting at Soldier Field. Kind of a side note. I wonder how much longer they'll play at Soldier Field. Because that new.
Yeah, side note again from your side note. What a bummer that is for them. Like,
isn't that weird?
I don't get the whole. I don't get the backstory behind it all and the reasoning for moving out. Maybe it's. I don't know one thing about it at all, but
hey, if it happens, it's got. All I know is it's got to fix itself in the next 5-10 years because Green Bay's got a 29-20 series lead playing there. We've won 10 of the last 11. With Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, Green Bay is 21-5, including playoff games against Chicago. And Packers are 19-3 in their last 22 games against the Bears. It's big rivalry because of longevity, Rob.
It sure has.
What's rivalry if you can't beat us?
That's so true. Like, and that's the argument that non-Packers Bears fans have against the rivalry. We claim to be one of the best. They're like, it's got to be somewhat back and forth. I mean, obviously the overall record is as close as
Yeah, I mean, I think Rodgers said we might have been down like 20 games to them before Favre took over, and ever since Favre and Rodgers have taken over, I mean it.
We've been dominating,
and the times that some of the Bears have beaten us, I think one time was on a Monday night game. It was when one of the new Call of Duties was coming out. I was watching it at GameStop. I brought my TV and everything, and that was when Rodgers got hurt. First drive, we go down, and then he broke his collarbone the first time. So that was one of the times they beat us.
Do you remember from that season that picture of Can you hear me? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Do you remember that season that picture came out of Rodgers? He was like looking in the camera and it was like, the Bears broke my collarbone, but I broke their hearts.
Yes. Years pass. Hey.
Oh my
God. Vikings fans, they like to keep posting the Anthony Barr over Rodgers as if that's the biggest moment in their
You know what? It really is, honestly. Like, I feel bad for Vikings fans and the Vikings franchise in general, because it's just a trash barrel franchise. They've done absolutely nothing. They choked. They had they were one win away from playing in their home stadium in the Super Bowl. In one they probably would have won. Their defense was good that year, and then they get shit on and by Nick Foles and the Eagles. And
number one defense didn't show up in the biggest game of one of the
choked
their franchise, and
they straight up fucking choked. And I'm so forever thankful for it because I was watching that. I was the biggest Saints fan, ever the week before.
We'd be talking a little bit differently right now, maybe, if they would have shown up.
Oh, if they would have shown up. If they would have shown up and won the Super Bowl in their home stadium for the first time ever, then
they would have had no
choice but to give them props for that because they would have acted like that one Super Bowl in their home stadium was better than all 4 or
Okay.
13 championships of ours combined, kind of thing. They're like, oh, you probably haven't ever won it in your home stadium. Well, obviously not. You fucking idiots. Like, so, anyways,
back to the Bears.
back to the Bears. First things first, man. The Bears still suck. I mean, come on, like you said, 19-3 against them in the last freaking 22 meetings. Like, that's just absurd. Like, it's just absurd. So we dominated these guys since 92, as you were saying, with the overall record being 44-15. Obviously in favor of the Packers since Favre and then Rodgers obviously took over. I've genuinely enjoyed watching us kick their ass and then watching their fans react with the most sorry of excuses. My favorite one, whether it's Green Bay pays the refs. Like, come on, man. I don't care how bad the refs are against us. Never once has a thought in my head crossed me that the other team is paying them. And then never have I actually thought and believed that. Like,
yeah, it's okay. Obviously we're going to be biased to ourselves, right? But I think no matter what, there's going to be the hate, and Green Bay is the golden child. So, everybody thinks
that right.
they're treated. But but I think to a lot of people that have actually educated themselves, Green Bay has found themselves on the bad side of a lot of calls.
We have, but
especially in our lifetime.
Opposing teams, fans, they don't see or want to see that shit. So, anyways, whether it's Green Bay pays the refs or my other favorite one, at least we don't choke in NFC Championship games. Blah, blah, fucking blah. Like, come on. The Packers have won. We talked about this before a couple shows ago. The Packers have won a Super Bowl more recently than the Bears have won a playoff game. So why are Bears fans talking about playoff success when the one year they won the North and actually made the playoffs, they got a home game. They got beat at home by a backup quarterback who is now currently on their team, getting paid $24 million over 3 years to be their third string quarterback. Like, the most Bears situation ever. Like, perfect, made the playoffs. Heck yeah, we have an awesome defense. Mr. Trubisky's playing above average, just enough to get this, thing rolling. And then they choke and lose in heartbreaking fashion off of the double doink, which will forever be just amazing. All in all, though, despite all the dislike or shade that's always thrown their way, I respect the rivalry. I enjoy the rich history of both teams.
Right.
And obviously, and especially, I appreciate the great George Halas for playing a massive part, obviously, in saving the Packers as a franchise when they were, I think, almost relocated or something back in '56. I was looking up earlier. So, although I enjoy dominating them, I respect it overall, and that's kind of what drives the dislike from the fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just fun to poke.
No, it is fun to poke.
It's easier to poke when you're winning too.
No, it is.
And it's while we're down, we're kicking them while they are down.
Yep, and this Sunday will just be another opportunity for us to do that because we're gonna kick their ass, John. It's just as plain as that. Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on. Did you want me to ask what you thought of this rivalry? You want to chime in here? I didn't ask you.
No, I mean,
did I hit the nail on the head there? They suck.
You hit the nail on the head.
And we've been kicking their ass for years.
My prediction will be as a result of what I think of this rivalry.
Okay, perfect. More Bears things to touch on. Fields, who is the 20th different starting quarterback for the Bears since '92, led his team to back-to-back wins against the Lions and the Raiders. Their defense has 18 sacks in the league, which is number one. I was hoping they would lose to the Raiders, but the shit show that they've been going through as a team and their coach and whatnot, not going to get into any of that. But they seem to be kind of a fraud 3-0 team when they were 3-0, I had thought.
Yeah.
Bears obviously ended up beating them. Lions 0-5. They're not good. They beat them. So they moved to 3-2 overall. The Bears do. My question is, who is the bigger threat on Sunday to this Packers O-line? Is it Khalil Mack or Akeem Hicks? They're both studs.
I mean, really, to me, it comes down to the lineman who's playing.
Yeah.
Josh
Josh
Myers,
both practiced today.
Josh Myers is going to have a real big test again.
And side note, Josh Myers was Justin Fields' center, obviously at Ohio State.
Yeah,
So.
true. I mean, normally I would say Khalil Mack, just because at the end of the day, Mack has been for the last 6 years has been known to be premier.
One of the best.
To be honest with you, it is kind of interesting because for how much Green Bay and people in the NFC North respect Akeem Hicks, I feel like you really don't ever hear about him outside of the fact that we're Packers fans.
No, I agree.
Which, to be honest with you, I think
he's underrated. I feel like
I think is the same disrespect that Kenny Clark gets.
Yeah, maybe it's something with that position and Aaron Donald swarming that.
Yeah, I don't think that Kenny Clark and Akeem Hicks both get the respect that they deserve. I mean, Hicks obviously can destroy our running game, get Rodgers up the middle in the pocket. Rodgers isn't gonna run around as much as he used to.
Right, and pressure up the middle more than anything is so detrimental.
I just want to go with Akeem Hicks. The reason being is it's just Mac has not been terribly influential.
Especially in Bears Packers
in the series when Rodgers has played. Yeah, when Rodgers got hurt a couple years ago and we had to send in the backups, he looked real good second. He looked real good in the second quarter against Deshaun Kaiser. And everybody was freaking out. But at the end of the day, Rodgers came back and he was a no-show.
He was a no-show, and he came up a little short on Randall Cobb's touchdown because he's slow and unathletic.
Yeah, I mean, I wish Green Bay could have had Khalil Mack. I think the guy's freaking outstanding. Akeem Hicks is obviously a scary dude. That's a good question, what you asked, because they are both extremely influential. I just for some reason I feel like it's going to be easier. I know this is a stupid thing to say in bulletin board material if I was like somebody of higher stature, but I just feel like we've done better against Khalil Mack, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like Hicks, we just got to really solidify with those because the interior of our line has more holes right now than our exterior if Elton Jenkins is in. So that's just my opinion.
No, I completely agree. I see and I feel like the interior pressure, when the pocket's collapsing is more effective. And if the guys are flying off the side and they get pressure and, pushing back, at least riders can step up and then step out from either side. But if it's coming from the middle, like you're forced to go out one way or the other and their linebackers are super fast.
Then you're relying on Rodgers to make a hell of you're relying on the Randall Cobbs of the world to come up big.
Right. Which he will.
Rodgers has to flush out, and the Randall Cobbs have to break off their routes and make plays.
No, yeah, I get it.
Maybe that's the foreshadowing of this game, Rob. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Randall Cobb.
I mean, the last two games he's come up clutch. Last game, obviously, he had what I thought was the first down conversion. The marker was wrong on Fox.
Yeah, that was terrible.
But still, it was a huge play to put us in field goal range.
I thought we had a first down live during the game, and then all of a sudden they started coming back. My brother's asking me if they had a first down. I'm like, yeah, they did. And then they said that, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, obviously not. So no. I'm gonna go with Akeem Hicks too, because Khalil Mack. I know last year I think it was the second game Akeem Hicks. He started the game playing, and then I think he got like a cramp or something to do with his hamstring or some muscle injury, where he didn't play the second half.
Right.
Which obviously you want them at their full strength. You don't want to play somebody and beat them because someone's injured. Right. That's never fun, and obviously somebody being injured sucks. So he didn't play, which helped Green Bay, obviously, because he's a force, but they're both healthy. They're both playing pretty good. Like we were talking about earlier, 18 sacks, first in the league for the Bears. That's they're getting to the quarterback, and it's no joke. So before we move into our predictions here, we're going to do a little head coach versus head coach comparison. I figured this would be pretty fun. So our buddy Matt LaFleur, he's in his third season. Matt Nagy is in his fourth. LaFleur overall is 30-7 and 2-2 in the postseason. Matt Nagy
30-7.
Yeah, isn't that insane? Just nuts. Matt Nagy is 30-22. You know what? 1 second. Let me double check that. I think I got it wrong. I did. He's 31-22 overall and an 0-2 record in the postseason. LaFleur never lost to the Bears. He's 4-0. Much different story for Nagy. He's 1-5 against the Packers during his head coaching tenure. My question to you, if the Bears don't have a successful season, whatever that may mean to them or their standards, is Matt Nagy fired or is he going to stick around? What are you thinking?
So if they don't have like a winning
say
season,
they go say they're under 500 by a couple games.
Okay, so what do we got? We got 17 games. So if they're like 7-10, I'd say if they're 8-9 or better, he keeps his job. 7 or 10 is questionable. 6-11, he loses his job. But
that's kind of right where I'm at.
But I think it all relies on the obvious, and that's the quarterback position in play. Because
that might also be his safe. His safety
right. If Fields plays well and like the offense shows improvement and maybe the defense just slows down, maybe that'll be what happens and they try to go somewhere else with an offensive minded coach to try to get, because at the end of the day they invested in Fields and if it's his rookie year, so at the end of the day you can't jump ship on a guy not being able to be good in 1 year, right?
No, I completely agree. But as we've seen, like the media and everybody,
the media the Bears fans tear Matt Nagy apart.
Everybody tears him apart. Like they're Dan Orvalsky's talking about how he's not game planning for his quarterback. Like
to have a winning record and still played in 2 playoff games, that's really decent
for the Bears. Like you can't complain about that. Have a winning record. Right. They made the playoffs.
Yeah,
as harped on earlier, they haven't won a playoff game since before we won a Super Bowl.
If they have a winning record, how do you let a guy go? If he's 7-9 and the quarterback shows promise, how do you let him go?
If they're 6-11 and Justin Fields is shaky,
6-11 and Justin Fields has a bad year, he's probably done.
No, let's can him. I agree. For our sake, I hope they keep him because, it seems like the game a couple years ago, it was late in the season. It was that game where they almost won on that crazy lateral, and then they pitched it, and then Tramon Williams shut him out of bounds near the goal line. Remember that game?
Oh my God!
So that game,
I forgot about that, but that is flashbacks of what the is going on.
Yeah. So that game, they were running it down our throat the first half, and then they just went away from it in the second half, and that's how we basically. I don't remember if we came back, but it was a close game. Obviously. That's how we kind of snuck out of there with a win because they weren't feeding David Montgomery the ball. And I think Tariq Cohen was healthy at that time.
Yeah.
Thank Nagy for that because we probably would have lost if they would have kept running the ball. So I agree. If they're 6-11, I hope he gets canned. I see him getting canned. I don't hope, but okay. We're nearing the end here. We're doing better. A couple weeks ago, it was an hour. We're trying to get it in that 30, 45-minute sweet spot. So you want to move on to our predictions here?
I'm ready for you.
Okay, I'll go first if you don't mind, unless you want to.
Go right ahead.
Okay. The one thing that's keeping me from taking the Packers to win by 30 is the Bears' defense.
Realism. Is being realistic with yourself. Is that what's stopping you from saying 30?
The one thing that's keeping me from taking the Packers to win by 30 is the Bears' defense. Obviously, we've talked about it a couple times in this video. 18 sacks, number 1. They don't really have a
second in pressures. At 41% or something like that.
They don't really have a glaring weakness on any position group on the defense, but the O-line of theirs is not good. I was made aware of this from the Bears fan on my feed. A lot of Bears fans, that was their one weakness coming into the year was the line. And that was one thing they were worried about. So even though we're missing Z, I see Rashawn, Preston, and Casey getting theirs on Sunday. I'm thinking 3 sacks between the 3 of them. whether it's 3 from Kenny, which is very realistic because he's been wrecking, or 1 from each. I don't care. They're getting 3 sacks on Sunday against Justin Fields. Final score: Packers 34, Bears 20. They simply can't hang with us. So you're up. What's going to happen Sunday?
All right. Well, I got Green Bay winning, obviously. I think because their defense is so good, it's on the road. I do think that we've underperformed offensively, and although they still played well, I mean, just underperformed compared to last year, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think it's going to be tough to score 30 on the road on that defense. To touch on your Kenny Clark sacks thing, he's the only D tackle in the NFL in the top 10 rush rate and run defense rate.
Damn, I didn't know that.
I saw that. The only D tackle. But yeah, it's really going to come down. If the defensive line needs to dominate, not let Justin Fields run around. I mean, I'm going to put us right in that 27 range to 17, 27-17. I just don't see the Bears' offense being that great. Not that Green Bay's defense is that great.
David Montgomery's out. The one guy. I mean, they have the backups.
Yeah.
Herbert, I think, had a good game last week.
Yeah.
But
it's Green Bay's favored by 4.5 on the road.
Yep.
So 5 points, which I think is fair.
Green I'm not a betting man.
Yeah, I think 4.5 is definitely fair. I think the Bears are decent enough. They're at home. They got a good defense. They got something to play for. But I think Green Bay is going to come in wanting it badly too, because, I mean, you always want this game for the obvious reasons that I don't need to state. But I just think that it's kind of one of those things that got to show up and bully them. Be the show who the big brother is right now. I think 27-17 is something I would be happy.
Daddy.
I'd be happy with a 27-17. I just don't imagine this game being a high scoring game in like I could see Green Bay going off, but I just don't see the Bears going off. But I don't see this being like a 30-30 type game, even if both offenses. I just don't think the Bears offense is capable of that.
No.
But special teams could be the difference in that. So I'm going to say about 27-17 as of right now. That could also change on Sunday when we know who's in and who's out.
Yep. I agree. Before we move on to trivia, I clipped this tweet I saw earlier today. The famous Bears wide receiver Darnell Mooney. He was asked by a reporter, "What do you think of the Packers-Bears rivalry?" His answer was, first of all, it's Bears-Packers. My sole reasoning that I think he said this was because alphabetical order, obviously B comes before P. But is it really Bears-Packers, or don't you have to be ahead in the overall standings to even think that that's correct?
It's okay. It's okay. We'll let a guy rock. We're gonna let a guy rock who's only played in 21 games in his career. We'll let a guy rock that is kind of a nobody to the rivalry.
Oh, he's a nobody unless they, he probably will get, 1 or 2 of those.
He had a good game last week, or at least played well when I turned their game on for the couple drives I watched.
He's a good deep threat. He's not a nobody. He's a good deep threat. But
at the end of the day,
come on, bro. You're not.
Yeah, the guy's not been a part of it enough to sit there and say, first of all, it's Bears Packers.
Has he even won a game in the Bears Packers rivalry?
No. I mean, he's played in what years he's played in 20. He's played in. Is this his This is his second year.
Yeah, and LaFleur is undefeated against the Bears, obviously.
Yeah, this is his second year, and they played it. So he's only played him twice. Yeah.
So in honor of Chris Collinsworth, one of my favorite announcers, commentators, here's a guy who's never won a game against the Packers. And he has the audacity to come out with this snarky comment and say, first of all, it's Bears Packers.
Let me game by game stats.
Come on, man. Where's Randy Moss when we need him? Come on, man. This is laughable. Like, yes, he'll get a deep target and maybe he'll get one completed.
Oh, hey, I'll give it to him. Last year, week 17, 11 catches on 13 targets and 93 yards.
Oh, good for him. He had 11 catches and couldn't even. Good for him. Go ahead.
He had 3 catches on 9 targets in the first game, so he didn't really do anything, but he had 9 targets. So
wow. So
I guess maybe because his career game was against Green Bay. So
what was that stat line in his good one?
11 catches on 13 targets for 93 yards.
Wow, 11 catches, and he couldn't even break 100 yards
in a game. In a game that they lost 35-16, so they were throwing the ball regardless.
Yeah, so like I said, here's a guy who's never won a game in the Packers-Bears rivalry. His best game was 11 catches. How many yards?
93.
93 in a game that we killed them in. Like, the dude had 11 catches, and he couldn't even break 100 yards or score.
He's broke 100 yards once.
Because Adrian Amos is his daddy. Like, come on, man. This is the stuff that, like, they're pissed and, just like when Justin Fields said something about beating the Packers.
It's corny, like, it's just a corny.
Yeah, it's like cringy. It's like yeah. First of all, it's Bears Packers. No. First of all, you guys suck. Like, you guys have sucked for the last 10 years, and we've been kicking your ass, and you still, I would have been like, if somebody would have said, what do you think of this Bears-Packers rivalry? I would have been like, well, actually, it's Packers-Bears rivalry because we haven't been able to beat them. And until we do, and until we get some more success against these guys, like, yeah, it's their rivalry to kind of hone over. Like, it is what it is. So, anyways.
You just got to keep beating them every time because when they beat you that one time, they're going to let us hear about it. So that's fine.
So, the guy who has broken 100 yards in a game one time has never won.
These are huge games for Bears fans. For us,
it's Super Bowl.
It just win the game to keep them quiet.
Nah, it's their Super Bowl. A guy who's never broke 100 yards once, never won a game in the Bears-Packers rivalry. He comes out and says this. Cool. Well, cool, dude. I would say nobody cares, but obviously I care enough to bring his tweet up, and so there's that. All right, trivia time, Johnny. I'm going to let you take this one over. Go for it.
All right. So you kind of spilled a little bit of the tiny beans, although I won't repeat it, about Green Bay's or Matt LaFleur's record against the Bears in his career.
Oh, shoot, did I? Yep.
But it doesn't matter. There's 2 other teams. So what is Matt LaFleur's career divisional record? Career divisional record of dominance.
One hint, yeah. It's been complete dominance in all aspects. Lions, Vikings, and Bears. Those sad teams. Those sad teams and those same teams that were criticizing the hire when it was made are now at his hands and feet. So, as we had said before, I see you join on Twitter because our Twitter comments don't show up here for our streaming service. They're still working out some bugs for that. And until they do, I've got it on my phone to kind of check it out. So, again, the question is, what is Matt LaFleur's record against NFC North opponents?
Wow, with Green Bay.
Yeah, wow with Green Bay.
Yep. Not the Titans or any of that nonsense.
No. Somebody came through. You're on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
You can see. I saw someone just commented 7-1.
Yep, 7-1, 5-1. It's not 7-1, not 5-1. Remember how many years he's been coaching too, right? So you play 6 games versus divisional opponents. We've had 2 13-3 seasons.
Yeah.
With him. Just figure out what the losses are for that.
9-1 is incorrect. 11-1 is also incorrect, Kyle. Kyle's been actually no hints. Sorry. Almost broke that one open here. Kyle Cope Kyle Cope is a constant viewer,
Hey,
and
yeah,
I
go
appreciate
ahead.
him watching. We love having him watch. We love chatting with you, Kyle. So thanks for watching, man.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's a big game. I mean I hope that we can continue to extend that record. But
yep.
you got it right. Somebody just guessed it right there.
Who you
Um,
got?
Skylar, please here. Did you see that? You see that
Huh?
one?
Let's see.
Skylar, please here. 12-1.
12
12.
and 1, Skylar. Was he the winner last week?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Skylar, congratulations. We don't have a prize for you, but congrats, man. 12 and 1. You are correct. And I spoiled it earlier, not even knowingly. And yeah, like you said, John, just completely dominated and has been dominating the NFC North. We've already got one win under our belt. We have a chance to, get the second one. I didn't count this
Didn't
year.
count this year.
Kyle
True.
said.
Yeah, you didn't.
Kyle, come on, man. Um,
Come on now, don't forget about that Lions game.
yeah, man.
Yeah, I mean it'll be big for them to get a win again, to go 2-0
A
in the
huge
division.
win. Because if they beat
So
us,
the Bears are the Bears are right there. That if they win a division game, we got a hard schedule coming up. So really, you want to get these ones now. While you're semi. I mean, I know we got guys out, but
yep.
you just got to win these games early because you never know what's going to happen later in the season.
Yeah, stack up these wins, especially obviously division's the most important. NFC is the
Yeah,
second most important. Just stack those up and
yeah, and division games are like two games.
yeah.
You win this game. I mean, you feel like you won two games, and
Oh yeah,
especially
especially
when
when it's an away game.
yeah, especially when it's a
I
away game,
mean,
especially when it's against the team that's second in the division right now.
and
You
they're a
know,
team if they can like their defense is good, so if they can kind of figure things out on offense and play, average to above average, they can be a solid team. And
yeah, they're solid. They don't have a big weakness on the defensive side. Offensive side, their offensive line's obviously really weak. Um,
yep,
I mean, they've got Allen Robinson, but they're not really a stud offensive team.
yeah, Allen
We just,
Robinson,
we
man.
just just come out and beat them, man. Just come out and
Let's just
beat them.
take care of work. Any last words before we close it down here? We're approaching 53 minutes here. Any last
Just,
words?
I mean, kind of like the Bears game, or excuse me, the Bengals game. Hopefully they get in, get out. I don't care
Yep.
how they win. Do you think our defense is starting to look like a Super Bowl defense? I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're when you say starting to look like a Super Bowl defense, it's harder to say that with the way the offense is playing right now. Need the offense to really elevate. If the offense elevates to last year, then I would say yes, this defense is playing good enough to
Yep.
to do that. But obviously, I think we would need Jair back.
Yeah,
To
and we
really do
haven't
that,
faced. We touched on this
maybe
last week, and we haven't faced an elite
yeah,
quarterback or an elite offense yet.
yeah.
So
And
that's gonna be
still won't this week, still won't next week, and then they come
Cardinals. Yeah,
Cardinals,
Chiefs,
Chiefs,
Seahawks. Well, not the Seahawks anymore, but
Seahawks. I don't think they'll have Russell Wilson back at that
right
time,
on
but
the edge.
if they do, that offense is scary.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Rams shortly after. Vikings offense is
Rams,
good with Dalvin.
right, yep, yep. So the
So
good offenses are coming. So
we'll
we're a
see. I'm
ways
gonna
away.
hold on that comment. I'm gonna hold on
In
an
my
answer.
opinion. Yeah.
But James, thanks for the comment, man. I appreciate it.
Offense lift up, man.
Well, if you
No,
don't have any more words here, we'll shut it down. Sound
yeah,
good?
I don't have anything crazy. I'll have a lot more to say on Sunday when when we see more about what's going on in the week. I'm sure there'll be one bold statement made out of somebody. So
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
be what happens. Look to the future.
Yes, sir. So
Take care of business.
that does it for us. Episode 9 of Pat Casual. This has been a blast doing this and talking with you guys. And John, you and I have been having fun doing this. Want to thank you guys to those who tuned in and commented, chatted with us. We love talking with you guys. If you want to follow us on social media, I put the links to our Twitter pages in the description of the video on YouTube if you're watching on Twitter. I tweeted the link to the YouTube video not too long beforehand. If you want to click that, give us a follow, DM us, tweet at us, talk some Packer football. Yeah, that's it. Let's get to 5-1. Beat the Bears this weekend. I'm pumped. Anyways, for John and myself,